Welcome to BlackUSA. Welcome to BlackUSA.News Morning Show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, everybody out there in internet land. Welcome to the BlackUSA.News Morning Show. I am your host, William Honolulu Jr. I know you all were expecting us to talk to Kes today, but Kes had an emergency that he wasn't able to show. But I told you all before that I know dope people. And so what I was able to do is I called my clutch. I was like, hey, Michele, you want to talk about students? You want to talk about mental health among our youth and mental health among the people? She said, absolutely. Anything that I can do to help educate and help inform parents and caregivers on what they can do to help their children navigate through this time frame, I am absolutely about that. Now, I've told you all about Michele before, but in a different context. Michele was my right hand ace boom coon when I was running an entrepreneurship center. She was the person that kept it all good and made sure everything was straight. But I was so happy when she followed her passion to work with children. So I'm excited today. It's not, I told you all I know some dope people, and we're going to have an opportunity for you all to get to know them as well. Yesterday's show, we talked about getting money. Everybody wants to make sure that they are in the right position and place to be able to get the resources they need to be successful. So we talked about it. We talked about how do you get in front of funders? How do you identify the value proposition that you have in a way that makes sense for them? We wanted to make sure that people understood that the power dynamic shifts when you are asking the bank for money, when you're asking someone for an investment, or when you're asking someone for a gift. It is your responsibility to show them that you are capable of paying it back or capable of giving them the return that they're looking for. Because one of the things that we talked about was that for sometimes what is a big deal to you may not be a big deal to them. For example, I've had many clients who want to get $50,000, $100,000 loans from banks, not realizing that it doesn't really become profitable for most banks, until you hit about the $250,000 mark. So for the client, this is a really big deal. And for the bank, it's a little problematic. And so making sure that you take an opportunity to get to know your funder, whether it's a lender, whether it's an investor, whether it's a grantor, getting to know them early and developing a relationship will help you in the long and short haul. Let's see, what else? Oh, let's not forget that we have a wonderful opportunity coming up. Where is it? Oh, here we go. The Great Business Pitch Challenge. It's 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to show the world what you can do. And the great thing about this is not just that you get an opportunity to share your business with people, or that you get an opportunity to let the world know what you have, or entice maybe some funders that'll be in the audience. The great part is that the prize is technical assistance, consulting, and support from technical experts. I'm talking about like accountants, business consultants, lawyers, media specialists, like people who make their living doing these things. So that is a really big deal. And, this is one of the things that I appreciate about BlackUSA.News is that we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. We invest in communities because that's what's necessary. Okay, what else? Sister Biz tonight. Do not pass that opportunity up to check those ladies out, Nicole and Tamara. Their show tonight. I don't know what the topic is, but it's always fire. So make sure that you all join in tonight, 7 p.m. Facebook, BlackUSA.News on Facebook. Let's see. Oh, big shout out to Katherine Johnson Global Academy in Baltimore, Maryland. actually, our guest today, Michele, she is the school counselor there. So yeah, big shout out to them. And another big shout out to another great educator, Misha Sutton, over in Baltimore County, Maryland, helping the kids and educating the community. All right, so you know what? I would love to do some further ado and just tell you how wonderful and great, because I could do that for the rest of the show, just tell you how great and awesome Michele Holcombe is. But I'm not going to do that because, well, she sometimes tells me not to. So that's another good reason not to do that. But I am so happy to bring to you guys and introduce you to Michele. Hey, Michele.
Hi, good morning, baby. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. You know, again, like I told him, in a clutch. If there's somebody I gotta depend on, it's gonna be you.
Well, look at that. Look at that.
So, as you know, my kids are older. Actually, let me yeah, they're not like kids anymore, like 20s. They're both in their 20s. And so we get to have different types of conversations about what's happening when it comes to social injustice and COVID, the economy, professions, and things like that. We have conversations, not really peer based, but closer to peer than we did when they were younger.
Sure.
So I'm out of practice. Okay, so let me start here. Level set expectations. I'm out of practice when it comes to working with young people. You know, mentoring some small kids. Plus, you know, I'm not necessarily all that great with kids. I'm just gonna be honest. Okay, it's cool. But how I can only imagine looking around at the world and understanding, you know, the same germs that you used to get that were just, you know, you could just wash your hands. Somehow they're killing people now, and you can't see it. You don't know where it is, and sometimes the vaccines or the medicines can make you sick, and apparently sometimes they'll still help you die. Like I cannot imagine trying to process. Hell, the 80s and 90s were difficult enough for me to process. And with all of the technology. So I'm sorry, it just is a lot for me as an adult. So I can't imagine what's going on with our kids. What have you been seeing?
Well, I have to take a deep breath on that, William, because you're absolutely right. I mean, I can't imagine what our children are, dealing with everything, like you said, technology, COVID, just the way of the world, just the access to information. Like Dave Chappelle said, when you have so much information at your fingertips, I think it kind of is making, people overwhelmed, children are overwhelmed specifically. So let's break it on down. What's happening in our schools? With everything that's happening, our children are most certainly stressed. They are struggling with self-control issues. They're struggling with self-awareness issues. They're struggling with the language of emotions. So it's a tough spot for these children. They still, are curious, but with everything that's happening and relying so heavily on peer-to-peer interactions, and they can't. So they're turning inward. This isolation is turning into hyper self-awareness, where you think that everyone is concerned about you, which is completely unhealthy. So everything is devastating. If a friend is not speaking or if something happens, the children are woefully unprepared emotionally. And that's I'm gonna put a hard stop right there.
Okay. And that's a really interesting perspective, because I know, you know, with this isolation over the last year, I realized that a lot of who I am has changed. You know, there are a lot of things that I do now that I didn't do before, or things that I used to think were incredibly important. Like if this doesn't happen, all of life, or, you know, like for example, I haven't been to the dry cleaners. I don't even know if this quarter of 2021.
Okay.
But well, I mean, I got a lot of shirts. Don't get it twisted. I'm not. Is okay. All right. Don't do that. That's disrespectful. Okay. And that's why. And that's also why I keep buying the same type of shirt, so that, you know, it's always, I got a fresh one because I like what I like.
Your
See,
secret.
this is one of the challenges, people, with having a show with somebody, you know, because she like. but as I'm thinking about the way that the kids are processing that, I didn't think about that point because I'm not the same person, and I'm pretty brilliant. So trying to process it has been difficult for me. When you are still learning social cues, I didn't. Wow, you like they don't even they didn't even have the foundation to understand what things should be.
Right.
It's kind of like when we joke with these kids about like, oh, you don't understand. Like if I had Google when I was in high school, da 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 da.
No, your
So
mom would be bad.
right, that's what I've learned because I used to think like, oh, I'd be so like, no, I would have got caught on the same games I'm caught on now, just earlier on in life.
Right.
But that social aspect is a central component of just healthy development.
Without question.
And so, and I heard one of the students, especially in the more elementary grades, one of the things that they were talking about was that now they have kindergartners who they've never been in line before.
Yeah.
They've never, they don't, they may, parents may have been working on academic things, but those, how do I exist in a culture with other people? Those are missing.
Yes, indeed.
Have you, so could you tell the people what grades do you work with?
I work with 3rd through 8th grade.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. Like all of so you pick them up when hormones start, like early hormones into, I am absolutely crazy now.
Well, you can tell from there are several indicators, olfactory indicators that may remind you that you are in the middle school hallway.
So sometimes kids think, I get it. No, I'm with it.
That's a nice way to say, middle school has this particular smell. Hormones. It's okay.
And honestly, so actually, the funny part is that actually is also something that is about the socialization piece. Because, one of the things that helps people not stink is knowing that people will tell you that you do. It's like, but if you haven't been around people, like I know it's so funny. A lot of people I've talked to, adults who have like started doing some more stuff, getting engaged. A lot of kind of the basic things that we just took for granted before, you forget.
Yes.
Like I went to an event maybe a few weeks ago. I forgot what parking downtown was like.
Yes.
I was like, wait, what? Right. I have to leave earlier because I have to walk 7 blocks.
Yes. We forget so many things. So imagine not knowing these things to begin with, that you can't even remember or anything. You have no foundations. The only people you've been dealing with are those in your immediate family or friends. So whatever those norms are, if mom and dad yell and scream at each other, right, and hit each other and don't use good words to communicate, yes, that 4th grader is going to come right in school and he's going to cuss everybody out just like he sees at home, because there's no balance where, when school was away, they didn't have anything to balance off of that. So a 4th grader is really a 2nd grader. A 5th grader is really a 3rd grader. They're all 2 years behind in that social emotional learning piece where they're used to interacting with each other. So we're only 3 months in, and it's been very, very long 3 months, reminding students just really the basics. Hands are for helping, not hurting. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. These sorts of self-awareness strategies, just to, hey, you need to be the boss of your brain, the boss of your mouth, the boss of your hands. People can't make you do anything. It's your response. All of these sorts of things need to be, are being addressed once again. So, I'm going to ask parents out here to please help us. We need a parent partnership to reinforce the same social, emotional, foundational skills, calming strategies, all of those sorts of things. Children need these terribly because they're struggling with those self-control issues.
Absolutely. So here's the thing then. As we go along as parents, again, I'm out of the game. So that's I don't have any young children. Right. But if I did have them, if they were still around at the house or whatever, how would I do this now? Because the reality is that I'd be struggling as a parent
Sure.
with all of the regular stuff.
Hmm.
Like I am struggling as a parent to pay bills or even figure out what that's going to look like.
Yep.
We wanted to move. Can we move? All of these things. So how do I navigate the entire change in my life and still try to support my children or the my dependents in a way that's healthy and gets them moving?
Well, that's a great question. So first of all, an empty cup cannot pour. So as a parent, you have to prioritize your own mental health, because if you're not right,
Mm.
nobody else is going to be right. So I'm going to urge parents to prioritize their mental health by eating right, getting enough rest, being cognizant of when you're stressed. And if you're stressed out, tell your children that. Say, hey, I'm a human being. I'm extremely stressed right now. Tell your child you need that break before you can interact with them in a healthy and enriching way. So be honest about your mental health with your children, and so they can see that it is a process. Like I tell my students, practice, self-regulation takes practice, and practice makes progress. So we have
Okay.
to practice self-regulation. We have to practice self-care and involve your children in that. Hey, you could say things. You're coming home from work. You're tired. You're stressed
Mhm.
out. Everything is going on. You have your bright-eyed, shiny fifth grader that's right there. Like, so what are we gonna do? You could say in a very healthy way, hey, I'm struggling right now on the inside, in my mind, because that's where the battle is. I need 10 minutes or 15 minutes to get myself together so I can give you my full attention. You have to be
Okay.
honest and have those words with your children, and they in turn will be able to, say those things when they're stressed.
Now
And so
let's.
once you're in a good place,
Mhm.
then you can incorporate your child into those languages of emotion. Just don't say I'm stressed, or say I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed. Introduce the language of emotions to children so it can be a normal thing to talk about what's going on in the inside. Because
Well, there are a couple of things that I got to give you some pushback on,
okay,
and
come on.
so we can, not necessarily pushback, but this is like, how do we help people?
Mhm.
So okay, you walk in and you're like, look, give me 10 minutes. We because there's a whole other part we need to talk about
Sure.
in that. How do we as parents develop those skill sets? Because it sounds great to talk to a kid like that, but let's be honest, a lot of their parents don't believe that to begin with. They're not able to. They have maladjustment issues themselves. And
Right.
so let's put a pin in that.
Okay.
But kind of more of the active parenting where, I say, give me a moment, but mom, or even worse, as you are trying to get yourself together, you're not paying attention to them, you're getting yourself calmed down and you hear that noise. Or even worse, you hear quiet. So it is again, kind of going back to how do we as parents, as caregivers and guardians, integrate or navigate that? And I guess that does lead us back into talking about parents and guardian mental health.
Without question. Well, you have to choose to want to be mentally healthy. And you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have there's actions you're gonna have to do to of the mentally healthy. These are actions that you're going to have to decide to implement. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
choice. So if all of these distractions are going to be there, but as the adult, you're going to have to choose to set boundaries that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be best for you and your child.
Okay.
And that's a decision that you have to make. And as an adult, if you're unaware of strategies to calm
Mm-hmm.
yourself, if you're unaware of how to check in with yourself mentally, we're
Mm-hmm.
on the internet. There's all of human history is right here. Please use your smart devices for smart things. Okay.
Okay. So now, let's say I get on the internet
Mhm.
and I find some support groups, some places, and some resources and associations, and I start reading it. One, how do I even start that? Do I just Google, I don't want to be a parent anymore, or this is rough? Like, how do I start? Because again, we assume that because people have their smartphones, like I'm comfortable, I could run an entire corporation and film a big budget movie from my phone, but I know how to play or look on YouTube mostly. You know what I mean? So there is this. So what do I look for as a parent? Like,
And
yeah.
again, a great question. Gonna keep it simple.
Mhm.
stress relieving strategies for parents. Okay, because
Okay.
you're going to do things like that. Keep it simple. Google is your friend. Ask it the right questions, and of course, not the first thing that you're going to see, but it is again incumbent upon you as a parent when you're deciding to prioritize your mental health to do your due diligence and ask the right
Mm.
questions. So you would say, "Hey, I need parental strategies for to de-stress, how to talk to my child about emotions, how ask the right questions, what's a great segue, or maybe even
Segue.
on YouTube, what's a great
Why would I want to be on that little bike? How is that going to help me on the
a
little bike? Help me.
segue.
Oh, oh, that
You're
like they wanted a hoverboard.
not,
Yeah, that's
not a hovercraft. How can I have these conversations, with my children? How can I
mm,
even have these conversations with myself or my partner, about how I can be my best self, minimize my
mhm.
stress for myself, and ultimately for my children? I mean, just ask the right question.
So let's say that situation comes up and you're like, okay, there's going to be a lot of information.
Sure.
How because honestly, there are people who start looking up stuff about coronavirus
Mhm.
and follow down the Google rabbit hole and to a place where now they're taking horse pace. So like the internet, to that point, the internet is a big place.
It is.
And there's a lot of information. Some of it is deliberately unhelpful,
Sure.
deliberately, and especially when you intersect cultural norms with religious practices,
Sure.
with also some environmental factors, because there's some communities, and some of this is kind of old Black folklore. Like, if somebody fights you, you better win. You
Mm.
better not. You better not come back in. If somebody hits you, you hit them back.
Sure.
These, I think they are unhealthy,
Hmm.
but these are staples in the Black community. Spare the rod, spoil the child. In especially things like in the religious context, because they're taken out of I mean, in the religious sense, because much of this stuff is taken out of context to justify the abuse.
And that's a terrible thing. And I wish that people would think for themselves and know what's best for them and best for
Mm-hmm.
their children. In the case of a parent who is subscribing to, if somebody say something to you, beat them up.
Mm-hmm.
If people are subscribing to that, then that's the parental choice,
Mm-hmm.
which is something. Again, I work with children for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
um, um, if a grown person doesn't want to, or is choosing not to grow and evolve
Mm-hmm.
and utilize this time, this great time of information to figure out how to be their best selves and to be a best parent when they
Mm-hmm.
decided to bring another human being into the planet, I don't think there's anything I can do for them. However, what I will tell their
Mm-hmm.
children is the importance of their agency, okay? And
Okay.
that they are not destined to be what they are surrounded by, that they are
Mm-hmm.
not their situation.
Mm-hmm.
um, I will be talking to them about that they have their own lives and that they do not have to subscribe to
But
whatever.
again, to the
Mm,
cultural norm issue,
mm,
that is in a lot of Black families, that what you're talking about is considered the epitome of disrespect and being ungrateful. All I do for you,
yep.
after that, those are real things that parents say. And so what I'm talking about, how do we, as parents, or
Mhm.
if we see other parents or caregivers, how do we even know there's a problem? Because again, if I got raised in the, kids you gotta shut up, like, you just suck it up, don't be crying, those people ain't important. And if I've been raised in an environment that propagates that,
Mhm.
I might not even think there's a problem with my kids, because it made me who I am. I'm tough. That's how I survived. It's kind of
Yeah.
like hazing rituals. So how do we even start to have the conversation with adults that the
Again,
norms need to be
what,
shifted?
what is what does it say under their school? Um, I don't have any patience, honestly, with
Mhm,
adults that don't want to evolve. And at this point in the game,
mhm,
adults should realize that what may have worked for you may not work for your own child because they have agency, because they're their own people.
Mm.
So I would hope, again, because this is why I don't deal with adults. I don't know how to fix that, William. That they would want to evolve from that very fixed mindset that is
Mm.
terribly unhealthy for their children. And
Okay.
so that's the bottom line. Because I'm going to be talking to children about agency, about self-awareness, about self-management, that they have their own turn in this wonderful thing called life. And it's up to them to be curious, because there's lots to do when you are. And, so
So let's talk about ways to healthily get kids to develop agency, because there are a lot of parents who believe that they're doing that. They believe that by pushing their kids out there, making them tough, it's
mm,
teaching them how to protect themselves and how to fight back. And
mm,
again, going back to this whole cultural norms, for a lot of people, that's what they believe is necessary for survival. And actually, let's be clear, for some of them, in the environments that they grew up in, that was
sure.
necessary for their survival.
Well, that,
And so as we are trying to help our kids evolve beyond the limitations that we had, how do we do that? How do we help them develop agency?
okay. So, like you said, how do we as parents help them evolve past that? Okay.
Hmm.
So that is absolutely the job of the parent. So
Yes,
the parent,
absolutely.
so when we say that they're parents that have, some cultural beliefs that are not facilitating the evolution of their students,
Hmm.
okay, are we not talking about them anymore?
And we're not talking about them. We're
Okay,
not talking about them because they're not doing anything. So,
because they're not right,
because
right.
you clearly said school counselors, so I was like, okay, we're not going to talk about them. We're talking about the people who are like, hey, you know what?
I love my
Um,
kids. How can I
I
help
I,
them?
I
Right.
I I may have had a bad experience growing up, and it's a lot of trauma and things, and I'm working on that in myself. But I would
That's
like to do better for my kids. And
that's
so,
right.
excuse me, Miss Michelle, counselor lady, can you tell me what I can do to
How
be
did
a
you?
better parent for my kids? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that is a wonderful question that I have an answer to. So, as a parent who is interested in facilitating and fostering the agency of their child,
Mhm.
I would certainly, again, encourage them to use the language of emotions, to have boundaries regarding their own mental health. Talk to their kids about it.
Where do we get them the language of emotion? Because again, where I grew up, I'm sorry, excuse me, where I grew up, we didn't have no languages of emotions. It was just sit down and shut up, because what you gonna do? We ain't got no money, blah blah blah. So
Mhm.
now I don't even, and my relationships don't work because they don't understand me. I don't understand me. so um, so
Right.
yeah, language of emotion. I like the stuff you saying. So where am I gonna get it? Help me.
The very first thing I would start with a parent is an emotion wheel. And there are only 7 emotions. Okay, there are only
Okay.
7.
Pride.
And now, right. I mean, there's happiness, there's
Mhm.
sadness,
Okay.
fear, disgust, anger. What is
So these
another
are
one?
like colors.
Yes.
Those are like the primary colors, and everything else is just kind of a mix or an outgrowth.
Yes.
Huh. Never
Yes.
thought about it like that. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
So
that's a really good one to know off the break. You got to choose from
we
7. Okay.
exactly. We have only just a series, just a small amount of core emotions where every
Mm.
other feeling branches out from. So you're going to start to have those conversations when they're infants. Little children are only the foundational feelings. They're either afraid, they're hungry, they're disgusted, they're happy, they're silly. Those core things. And as you get older, those feelings have nuances. You
Mhm.
know, so shame is something that is really based in fear. But it's
Mm.
very different from being afraid. But having those conversations about the language of emotions. So I would start with the language wheel,
A language.
emotion wheel. I'm sorry.
I mean, emotion will.
Mhm.
Okay.
You
Emotion
can,
will.
you can probably Google one right now and slap it up on the screen, and we can
Oh,
talk.
see, I don't like touching too many buttons at a time. Makes me nervous. Give me a second. I'm gonna try it though.
Sure.
Go ahead and tell the people about the rest of the stuff. I'm gonna see if I can find me an emotional will.
Emotion wheel, sure, why not? So yes, absolutely. The language of emotion is very important. To not say things like "boys don't cry," or just suck it up. Having the don't use language that suppresses emotions, because that's the very thing that makes us humans. Our ability to
Mm.
feel so deeply. Think about that. You know, every song on the radio is either about love or hate. You know, I mean, art is inspired by our emotions. Everything is inspired by our emotions. Everything that we do, the clothes we wear, it's about how I feel. The reason I color my hair blue, this is about how I feel being me. And so we have to be able to manage and regulate our emotions to be our best selves. So if parents decide to talk to their children about emotion, about the importance of it, and the importance to regulate our emotions. I mean, self control, without self control, we can't do anything. We can't do anything. It's not, there's
So
nothing that you can achieve without self control.
that is a really good point, and I think that is also very helpful. So the motion wheel, yeah, the connection started jumping, things were moving too slow. I decided to let it go. We'll tag a link to some information about the emotion wheel and things like that after the show, in post. But that piece about self control. Talk some more about how that plays in as you are trying to help them develop agency in an environment where they don't have kind of the practice space for it. They don't have, you can tell them like this is how you communicate, but like you said, when they get to school, if they are engaged with a child whose family norms are different, then how that's going to be that might be challenging, or hell, even traumatic for them, with this big expectation like, oh, if I say these words, people will respect my boundaries, blah blah blah, especially the authority figure. So how do we talk to them about these kind of the setting boundaries, the agencies, the communication, the healthy conversations in this context where we have fewer opportunities to practice? Does that make sense?
Well, yes, it does. Well, in school, we are introducing school as a school community. A community has norms. And what is a norm? Something, rules and regulations, policies and procedures that we all agree upon so we can move forward. So when they come to school, this is a school community. We define what a community is, and in that community, there are norms that we all have to agree upon. So
Okay.
this is a thing. So this is setting boundaries for expectations of behavior, and of course, your successes and failures. So setting those community boundaries, I think, was very important.
Okay.
So by, even if they are not having these sorts of things encouraged or supported when they're not in school, I explain to them, just like all the staff and every trusted adult in the building, that this is the way the world works. Policy and procedure, community norms, expected behaviors. This is how the world works. And I don't know what's happening on the street because we're not the street. This is the way the world works. And this is the way that we can have community and move forward together. So what we're really doing is creating two worlds. And ultimately, the student is going to have to choose which one is going to work best for them.
So, and I think that might be that's part of the challenge too, because adults have difficulty being more than one thing simultaneously.
Yes.
You can't have somebody. I saw during the pandemic, they had a TV station had Dr. Fauci on to talk about the pandemic, about coronavirus and treatments and things like that. Do you know who they had follow him up to kind of give some more depth to his analysis? Dr. Phil.
I bet.
And and again, this goes to the information, the misinformation, and who should you trust. And so, as we are starting to work with students about their self-regulation and self-control, it sounds like one of the things that as parents we need to help them with is the concept of code switching, less racial code switching, but more cultural code switching.
Without question.
And so talk about how as a parent, how do we stay, because I don't even think a lot of parents realize that they do code switch. And because I remember we don't do that out here. It was like, but we did it in there. Why can't we just, and I think sometimes we don't do it, and to your point, we don't do enough about explaining the actual context, because a lot of times we're guessing and making it up ourselves.
Well, again, this is, parents have to be more transparent. Because here's the truth of the matter. Either this wonderful contraption that we're enjoying right now, the internet, is going to raise your child, or you will. I mean, there's an A or B. So while they're, under your roof and you have control over their devices, that how much time they spend online, the choice is yours. Because the internet is going to teach them a whole lot of stuff, and they're very, very interested. And the algorithms are set up to keep their attention for hours on end. So just when you think that they're quiet in their room, trust and believe they are spending 10, 15, 18 hours, consuming who knows what, with algorithms that have been tailored just for them to feed whatever it is that they're curious in. And so it is incumbent upon the parent to be curious about what your child is consuming via the internet, because it's going to teach them. And so my only advice to parents is it's your choice. You control their devices, you control the internet, even though I know it's hard. But you have to choose what your baby's gonna be feeding on. So I urge that you feed them love and support, time with you. They want to talk. They do. They want to talk a lot. They want to talk about what they're learning or not learning on the internet. So love and support and time.
That one of the things that you hit on, the idea of time, that you only have the 168 hours a week, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and you have to make decisions and to prioritize. There is not enough time to do everything. And so one of the hard parts about parenthood was the opportunity cost. The things that I'm not doing because I'm sitting in a wrestling tournament to watch, like literally, if everything went as hard and as far as it went, I would watch my son on the mat for 12 minutes tops. But 7 hours of my day were gone. But that's hard. Part of the whole navigating, and I'm gonna be honest, I was not good at this while they were growing up, because just trying to navigate, kind of resolving my own discovering I had trauma issues to begin with. Like, no, I let all that stuff go. I don't even think about that no more. And then having to go to therapy, and it's like, oh wait, this is bothering me. And you talked about it earlier with the mental health of parents. Like, let's be clear, none of us know what the fuck we're doing.
No.
Nobody. Anybody that tells you they do, they're either stupid or lying. Now, don't underestimate stupid, though. Please do not. Don't. They will. Why don't you do this? And here's the funny part: the people who tend to have the most advice and the most passionate advice about how children should be reared are the ones whose children aren't doing all that well.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. There's a psychological term called, I think it's called the Dreyer-Krupp syndrome. I'm not sure.
Oh, Dunning-Kruger.
Dunning-Kruger, that's right. Yeah, but the less you know, the more you think you know. That's why children are so adamant about, they don't know enough. Right. And then the more you know, the less you realize you know.
Yes. I remember when I was young, and I found out about 411, because, I'm old enough where that was new technology. So, so I saw my mother pick up the phone and she would dial 411, say somebody's name, and they would give her the number. So I was home. I think I may have been like 4 or 5. I was home, and clearly nobody was watching me the way they should. I wanted to talk to my mommy. So but I didn't pick up the phone. 411. Hello, may I have the number to mommy's work? It's like, where does your mommy work? At her job. Like, what's your mother's name? Mommy. Like, why are these people not so smart? I don't understand what was wrong with them. And I was adamant that because I've seen them give them the numbers to other people's jobs and places like that. I've seen them do it, and now they're just trying to trick me. I don't understand why they're not being helpful. And the only reason we know this story is because whoever was watching me, apparently I was fit to, what do you call it? Fit to be tied.
Hmm.
Um, and I went to tell them, like, they won't tell. And of course now this became a family joke, but like that's a real story. And to your point about being adamant, I was unjustly denied the telephone number to mommy's work.
Yep.
And
Unjust.
Dunning Kruger is real.
It's very
And
real.
so as you and for those of you who might not be familiar, Dunning Kruger is this theory by these two dudes, Dunning and Kruger,
Funny.
they, that the people who have a very little bit of information, they're the ones who believe themselves to be experts. It's kind of like the people who I took psychology 101 or a law class in college. So let me explain to you what your legal rights are. Or I took the psychology class. Oh, you're a classic narcissist with, oh, honey, you're so cute. But then you have people who have been practicing, let's say, psychology for decades, and you say, well, this, you give a person, you explain everything about a person. It's like, well, I probably still need to see them to make a diagnosis. Where the person who just took psychology 101, you're like, yeah, my mother seems sad. Oh, she's depressed, and
She's
what she needs is 300 milligrams of
You'll be
right.
fine.
And
Oh, you're frozen. You're frozen. Mm. What happened? Hello. William's frozen. Hello. 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 William. Can everybody see me? It's live. Hi. I don't know what's happening. Should I stay? Mm-mm-mm. I don't know what happened to William, but here we are, friends. Now it's just me. Is counselor spelled right? I don't think it is. Look at that, friends. Good afternoon. Oh, it's still morning. Still looks like it's going live, which is fun. Am I the host now? William, oh William, oh William. Not that I know how to stop this or anything like that. I don't know. I'm gonna stop my camera. Thank you. Audio only. Well, friends, I just wanted to come back and let you know that William is experiencing some internet issues in his zip code. So I'm sure he will join you tomorrow. It has been a great pleasure in speaking with all of you. Thank you so much. Please love up on your babies. Be gentle. Okay? Please keep everyone safe. Wear your mask. Be well. Have a great day and an amazing new year. Remember, mental health is your responsibility. Have a great day.